They say that among the Dead Sea Scrolls, hidden in the caves of Qumran, there were texts that never reached museums. They were too dangerous to reveal. Some spoke not of the laws of Moses, but of his doubts, his fears, and of the voice that whispered to him in the desert silence. That voice was not the God taught by priests and prophets. It was another, forgotten, cast out, exiled from the pantheon. A God who found a way to return. Gods love noise. They crave the sound of trumpets, the flash of lightning, the trembling of the earth at every step. But they did not hear me. I sat in the corner, listening, smiling. Ra shone as if he had just invented the sun. Baal boasted once again of his storms. Ashur remained silent, always the style of a quiet killer. And me? I drank watered-down ambrosia because no one offered me wine. They argued over who deserved the greater worship. I thought, you all fight for the throne, yet fail to notice that chance itself is the one sitting upon it. They did not notice me. I was used to it. When a temple collapses, a god hears the cracking inside his own chest. When a priest dies, a god feels his tongue torn out. I endured this countless times. First, forgotten prayers. Then, empty altars. Then, generations who no longer knew my name. Humans die. Gods die too. My death was slow. I wandered through abandoned shrines, watching snakes nest in my altars. And I understood, soon, I would be no more. Do you know what a god feels when he dies of oblivion? Not rage, shame. You remain eternal, yet no one needs you anymore. I was not always the silent shadow in the council of gods. Once, I had my own small people, nomads, dusty tents, goats, the burning desert sun. They were few, but to them, I was something. They called me Yahu, sometimes Yahweh, sometimes the Lord of Teman. My name wandered with them through the mountains of Edom and the paths of Midian. I was a desert god, of thunder, dry winds, rare flashes of lightning. No glory, no empires, only dust, fear, and the superstitions of poor tribes. My name was carved on clay shards, written beside the names of foreign gods. On one, me. On another, a knot. I was divided, like bread on the market. Never the center, always an addition. And yet, I lived. As long as someone whispered my name in the dark, I was. That is why, when I sat among Ra and Baal, they laughed. To them I was dust. To them, I was nothing. And that is why I learned to wait. Shame is good fuel for cunning. I realize that power does not belong to those who shout the loudest. Does the sun make noise? No. It simply shines, and all must obey. So I told myself, Enough of being a god of rain or fertility or war? Those niches are already taken. But what if I do not become the god of something, but the god of everything? Not a pantheon, not 100 names. One, only one. No more sharing sacrifices. Take it all. They would have laughed if they heard me, but I told no one. I simply began to wait for a man desperate enough to believe in a forgotten god and ambitious enough to make me his weapon. I searched for long. Babylon was too proud. Canaan, too crowded with gods, like a market where every idol shouted louder than the next. I needed a man, not a warrior, not a king, a priest. One who understood how faith worked. A little mysticism, a little theater, a lot of discipline. I found him in Egypt, Moses. No god would have bet on him. A minor priest, raised in a foreign family, a stranger among his own. Too clever for slaves, too foreign for Pharaoh. An outsider, and outsiders are not hard to sway into alliance. He was angry at everyone, at the Egyptians, at his people, at himself, and such anger is fire. One breath, and it becomes a blaze. I could not appear to him like Ra in golden splendor, nor like Baal with thunder from the sky. I had no resources for spectacle, so I improvised. A bush, flames that did not consume, just an illusion, a trick of power, a fragment of old arts. He was afraid. Excellent. Fear opens doors. I told him what he longed to hear. You are chosen. You have a mission. The people await you. I will lead you. All gods sing the same tune. You are special. But only I poured into those words the desperation of my own oblivion. He hesitated, said he was slow of speech. Perfect. Weakness makes a man pliable. I let him take his brother, let him speak for him, but the voice was mine. Our agreement was simple. He would be my prophet. I would be his God. Together, we would forge a new people and a new cult. He thought it was his chance to free his people. I knew it was my chance to free myself from forgetting. And that was when I first spoke the words, "You shall have no other gods before me." He thought it was law. I knew it was war. Having gained my people and my prophet, I found the power I had long awaited. My hour had come. They thought the plagues were for Pharaoh. Ha! He was only a stage prop. My true target was the gods of Egypt. I began with Hapi, god of the Nile. His river was his pride, his strength. I turned it to blood. The red current poisoned his name. People saw death, not life. That was my first strike. Poor Hecate, goddess of fertility, with the head of a frog, beloved for abundance and life. What did I do? Multiplied her image into nausea. Frogs in beds, frogs in bread, frogs in hair. What once was blessing became plague. Her cult collapsed. 3 days of darkness. That was my sweetest vengeance. Ra, vain peacock in his sun chariot. His priests swore he never hid. I hid him. 3 days of shadow and whispers crept through his temple. What if he is not all-powerful? A single doubt is enough to kill a god. Every plague was theater. Locusts. Min lost his power of fertility. Diseases. Sekhmet became a powerless guardian. Dead firstborns. Osiris, god of rebirth, did not come. I worked down the list like an executioner with a ledger. One by one they fell. For Moses, miracles. For the people, proof. For me, advertising. I was not just destroying gods. I was rewriting myths. When they said, "Look what horrors strike us," I whispered, "This is no horror. This is me." Gods are not slain by lightning. They are slain by words. Temples can burn. Priests can fall. But if the name survives, so does the god. So I became a sculptor of memory. Baal, the thunderer. Once he ruled the storms, a favorite of nations. I made him a monster. My prophets called him idol, pagan filth, later, demon. I did not take his thunder. I took his respect. Astarte, mother of life, beloved for love and fertility, she gave children life, and fields their harvest. I made her a harlot. Every rite of her cult was rewritten as lust. The goddess of life became the whore of desire. Moloch, feared, yes, stern, yes, but respected. I turned him into a horror, a devourer of children. Now all who hear his name shudder. It was I who painted his image in blood, though blood was always there. Before, they called it sacred. To seal victory, I created a single enemy. I fused Baal's power, Astarte's allure, Moloch's cruelty, and named it one word: devil. People forgot they once had temples, songs, worshippers. Now they saw only one foe, and that foe was me in a crooked mirror. The board was cleared. They were gods. I made them monsters, and only I remained light against a darkness I myself had drawn. They think I chose them. Truth? I chose a tool. They were slaves, with no gods but hope. They were humiliated, so anyone who called them chosen would be their hero. They were small, so my ambition could nest inside their survival. When Moses came down from the mountain with stone tablets, the people trembled. They thought, the word of God. I thought, the first charter of the corporation called monotheism. 10 rules, simple as hammer blows. And the greatest of them, no other gods. That phrase slaughtered pantheons faster than any sword. 40 years in the desert were not for the road. They were for retribution. I knew by tearing a people from the jaws of oblivion, I had broken the oldest law, the law of balance. Every god knew, take nothing beyond your share, or the scales will demand payment. I had taken, so the scales demanded. The elders who remembered other gods died in the sand. The children were born with only my name on their lips. But each generation paid. With hunger, with snakes, with thirst, with rebellions, with executions. It was not a school of faith. It was compensation, a burden of trials so the world might forgive my interference. And I knew this was not the end. What they paid in the desert was only the beginning. Their future would echo the same. Exiles, ghettos, pyres, persecutions. Not a curse, the shadow of my gift. I saved them from disappearance and condemned them to live forever out of balance. I looked around, Ra, dead. Baal, disgraced. Astarte, defiled. Moloch, nightmare. I had turned them into demons, so none would dare restore them. And I remained, the only one both loved and feared. And then I spoke the words I had longed for since the day I was forgotten in my last temple. I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. Beside me there are none. And it became truth, not because the world was so, but because I had convinced enough souls to make it law.